Sagittarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for November of 2021. Well, if this is your sun sign, if Sag is your sun sign, then your birthday is coming up pretty fast. It might even be at the end of this month, and you're undoubtedly in your yearly mop-up period, which is the last 30 days before your birthday. The very best way to get a jump on your personal new year is to get a birthday reading before your birthday happens, so you can be ready on your personal New Year's Day with the intentions and affirmations that you need to kick the year off right. And if you want that, you can get the link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, Sag, Saturn and Chiron have been traveling along in a harmonious sextile this year. Saturn brings discipline and Chiron brings mending. And when the two of them work together, they can help each other out at what they're doing. So Saturn's been traveling along through your third house. It's likely to spend in total about 2.5 years there. Without looking at your chart, I can't tell you how recently it's entered and how much longer it is going to spend there. You'd need an actual reading to find that out. But suffice it to say that you're in a time period where you've absolutely got to get more disciplined about how you communicate with others, how you listen to them, how you reflect what they said to you, and how you formulate your thoughts and lob them over into another brain. So Saturn's been really testing you and pressuring you about that, and but with help from Chiron in the form of some mending. Chiron is occupying your fifth house, which is the house of creativity. It's also a house of ego and self-discovery. So Chiron has been traveling along through your fifth house, and it's going to spend longer at that, more like 5 to 7 years traveling your fifth house. So it may have been there for a while. And so this is a time period in which you get to heal from the ego blows that may come at you in life and get to formulate a more strong sense of yourself. So as Chiron is doing that mending work of mending your ego, it is helping and supporting Saturn in its job of seeing to it that you become more disciplined in your communication and vice versa. They're working together. This month is the final month in which they are forming this connection. So if you feel like there's any more juice to be squeezed from this wonderful transit, I suggest you act on that right away. Well, Julia, I know you've got some great news for the Sages of the world about Mercury, Venus, and Mars. What is that stuff?
Good question, Jamie. Well, hey, Sagittarius, I'll begin with Mercury because that's the planet of communication and mentation. And for the first 5 days of the month, Mercury is going to be in your 11th house of friends, groups, and long-term goals, meaning that it'll be a pretty social period for the first 5 days of the month. You might get a lot of calls or texts or emails from friends or from people in the groups of your life. That could include everything from unions, societies, clubs, organizations. The 11th house also represents our long-term goals. So your mind might be very preoccupied with the future and what plans you need to make to get what you want out of life for the first 5 days. But then after November 5th, Mercury moves into your 12th house of isolation and the subconscious. So when Mercury's in the 12th house, because it's a planet of communication, we tend to keep our thoughts a lot more to ourselves because the 12th is a hidden house. So, the beginning of the month, you're much more inclined to kind of connect to friends and ask what they think about things. And then for the rest of the month, you want to keep your thoughts to yourself for the most part. And when Mercury is in the 12th house, it can be a wonderful time period to be getting your best ideas from subconscious places, like through meditation or dream work or any other consciousness exploration activity could be really favored now. And Mars, the planet of action and activity, is also in your 12th house all month too. So with Mars in the 12th house, you'll probably want to be doing, work on your own versus in a team setting because the 12th house is such a sort of hidden and isolated place and Mars is our energy. So, any work you have to do either in your personal life or professional life, you might prefer to sort of do on your own. Now, Mars in the 12th can be a little bit tricky because it can mean that you're a little bit secretive about your actions. Remember, Mars is our actions and the 12th is a hidden place. So just make sure that you're not acting behind others' backs in ways which might upset them because that could definitely become a challenge for you later. The 12th house is also can be kind of a slippery place. It can be the house of self undoing if we're not attentive. So just be careful that you're as above board with your actions as possible. Then Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, spends the first 5 days of the month in your first house of self. With Venus in the first, it's a wonderful transit for all the single Sagittariuses out there to get out and date some new people, because you're going to be embodying the Venus energy, meaning that you're going to be looking extra good. So wonderful time for making good first impressions on people. Then after the 5th, Venus is going to move into your second house of income and also possessions, all the things that you own in life. So when Venus goes into the second house, you might be in a very shoppy mood, because wherever we have Venus is where we find pleasure, and the second house is money and stuff. So you might be wanting to spend a little bit more money, especially on luxury items or art or beauty things, because that's all related to Venus stuff. And Venus in the second house can be a good time for a little extra money luck, especially if you're thinking of expanding a business or asking for a promotion or doing something else to earn a little extra money. It can definitely be good for that.
Good stuff. Well, now I want to tell you about the moons of the month. The first one is a new moon in Scorpio, and you can see it right here. It falls in your 12th house of the hidden, of the unconscious, as Julia was saying. Now we're calling this moon stabilized paranoia through disruption. And the reason that we're calling it that is because the moon in Scorpio is definitely prone to falling down that rabbit hole of paranoia and just having a feeling that might be an intuition or might be a fear. I'm really not sure which. And when the moon is in Scorpio and it's in your 12th house, well, that's the house in which things, it's like you put them into a bottle and you spray them out into the air, and before you know it, they're in the whole atmosphere and you can't even point to them anymore. So if you feel like you've got some sort of like irritating, globalized paranoia going on during this moon, well, that moon in Scorpio in your 12th house would be why. And but you can stabilize that through the disruption of Uranus, which is opposing this moon. Uranus is placed in Taurus, and there's nothing like Taurus for soothing and calming Scorpio, intensity. And so Taurus can bring the patience and the groundedness and the common sense that's needed here. And then Uranus just loves to break up patterns, patterns that are, entrenched in a bad way. So if your thought and feeling patterns are veering towards the paranoid, maybe you should find somebody to reflect something to you that's a little bit more grounded, and see if you can break up those thought patterns before they get, into the atmosphere around you. So then we have the second moon of this month, which is the full moon. And that appears in Taurus over here where Uranus is, which is your 6th house, by the way, of work, health, service, and organization. And this moon is not just a garden variety full moon. This is a lunar eclipse. And we know that because it appears near the nodes. We have the South Node in Sag, the North Node in Gemini, and the nodes have been traveling along through these signs for about 18 months. And as they do that, they have been encouraging us to let go of outdated beliefs. And that's the South Node in Sagittarius pressing for that. And then the North Node in Gemini is saying, listen to reason, listen to logic, and think in more rational ways. So the nodes have been pressing for all this. And then this moon comes along and stirs up a lot of emotion. And that's what lunar eclipses do. They show you your shadow through an incident that is very, very emotional and stirring, really stirs the pot. So we're calling this one, it doesn't matter if you're right, because whatever you may believe, whatever beliefs that you may be, spouting out into the world, it may be time to let those go. And if you are trying to have a reasonable conversation with somebody else who is coming from their own entrenched beliefs, you can bring all the logic that you want, and it still might not persuade them. So it doesn't matter if you're right. But what matters is finding your way to a better emotional place under this eclipse. And because this lands in your sixth house, all this stuff might come down in the workplace. So that's a place to keep your eyes on. Then the last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal change where the sun is leaving Scorpio right there and heading into Sagittarius, which is, of course, your sign. And so that means it's entering your first house if you have Sag rising, and it is going to be, conjuncting your own sun if you have a Sag sun. And that means it's all about you. It's your time of the year. It's the time when you can really shine. And it's a good time to put some attention on yourself and to be that shiny person that you know how to be. So enjoy that. Sagittarius, I think, is a very playful sign, a very social, gregarious sign. And I think a celebration is definitely in order. So gather people around the tribal fire, warm everybody up, and do some celebrating in your very own season. Well, that's what we have for you today, Sag. Hope you enjoyed it. You'll find this on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, in the horoscopes playlist for the month. And you'll also find the news of the month on our YouTube channel, organized into its own playlist. And you can also find your horoscope and the news on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And that's also the place to go if you would like to get a reading or take a class. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.